In 2016, I wrote this letter to myself. I was lost, confused, and unsure of my future life. I had no idea if life would get better, or if I would ever feel truly happy. Today, I want to read this letter piece by piece and reflect on just how much has changed. If you're struggling, maybe this will remind you that things really can get better. But before we continue and read this letter, I do want to say, if you find this video engaging and something that you enjoy, please don't forget to like, vibe, and subscribe so I can continue creating videos like this that you can enjoy and get to see my journey, because I've been through quite a lot and I have a little bit of wisdom to share that I actually didn't realize would be practical or helpful to a collective until I really sat with this letter. So with that being said, let's get into this letter. I'm going to read the first paragraph. I wrote it down because it was on a document on my flash drive, and I don't have that with me right now, so I'm just going to read it piece by piece and go from there. Okay. This was written by me in 2016. It was September of 2016. And this is what I wrote. Yes, I am writing a letter because I feel it is the right thing to do when I feel as lost as I have felt lately in life. I do want to remind you that right now we don't have things figured out for ourselves. We are questioning ourselves to an extent that we feel like a chicken with our head cut off. Back in 2016, I was going through a lot of things. I was working a job that I was worried that I was going to get fired or something was going to happen where I got let go somehow. And my relationship felt like it was falling apart. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and it felt like everything was kind of falling apart. And I feel like back then, I felt like all of it was happening to me. Now that it's been a good almost 10 years later, I realize that it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And that has been a big game changer. I feel like sometimes I go through bouts of feeling lost like she did. I have moments, but I'm not as lost as she is or was. So here's the next part. I am hoping that within 6 months, we aren't in the same dark corner. I want to be happy again. I'm sure I was happy at some point. I have high hopes for the future and have goals, but I feel like there is something holding me back from what I want. Sorry to be honest with myself. Well, no, I'm not sorry to be honest with myself. What was holding me back was me. What was holding me back was fear of the unknown and doubts that I deserved anything better. And it took me a while to realize that, because at that time, let's be honest, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. I knew that I wasn't happy where I was and that change needed to happen. At that time, I was living with my dad, or temporarily living with my dad, because at the time, like I said before, my relationship was not in a good standing point, in my opinion, and I needed that space and that time to really think about what I wanted, because I wasn't happy where I was. I wasn't happy with a job. I wasn't happy with my relationship. I wasn't happy with how I felt about myself. Because how I felt about myself is, to be honest, I didn't want to be here. Yeah, that's a hard truth. I didn't want to be here at that time. So, let's continue. Please tell me that I stopped making excuses for why I can't do things. You have to remember that we do that a lot, and then what happens? We beat ourselves up. Am I stronger now? Am I thinking about myself more? Do I love myself now? Am I happy with what I see in the mirror today? Even though I didn't write it down, I remember writing that if I said no to any of those questions, that I need to reflect again, and think about why. Basically, think about why I don't feel these things. And the one thing that I like about what she asked is, she's like, please tell me I stopped making excuses for myself. And to be honest, there are times where I still make excuses not to do things, or I get caught up in fear or being scared of doing things, especially like this. This is very vulnerable, very uncomfortable a little bit, because it's not me shuffling a deck of cards and telling you about yourself. I'm telling you about my journey. And sometimes that's very uncomfortable and very scary to be this vulnerable. But I feel like I've built myself up to a point where I can be seen and share these things without worrying too much. And so I don't make as much excuses as I used to, not to do the things that I want to do. I watch my energetics around certain things. When certain things light me up, I do them. This morning lit me up. Something about being able to do this and share this with you guys has lit me up to the point where I do want to share, even if it makes me a little bit uncomfortable to do so. I find that my journey from 2016 to now has taught me a lot about self-love and really stepping into that, because back then, looking in the mirror, I didn't like who I saw. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like any of it, to be honest. And I would do what I could in 2016, I would do what I could to make myself feel beautiful, but even on the days where I had what I called Beautiful Friday, where I would do my makeup and have my hair done like in an updo. And even then, I didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't feel good about myself. I was trying to do something external to make myself feel even a fraction of a bit better. But where I was and what I surrounded myself with at that time showed me every reason to dislike myself. Every reason to feel smaller and smaller and smaller. It was honestly exhausting. Like I said before, it got to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore. But I wouldn't do anything to cause myself not to be here. And that's a big point that I want to bring to the table here, is when I could have given up, I didn't. This is not the end of the letter. I'm going to take a moment and I'll come back with the next part of it. Do you remember what our friend said about screwing what everyone else thinks and just being you? Do you remember her telling you she's been in the same position and now she lives in Kansas feeling happy as can be? Are you letting what others say get to you? Do you still get depressed? Let's talk about that. Over the past 9 years, it has taken a lot to get me to the point where things that people say to me, people are always going to have their opinion of what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. And opinions, we all have them. And I feel like in my journey, I'm realizing that my opinion for myself and my well-being is the only opinion that matters for myself. Not for other things, but for myself. When it comes to myself and what I'm doing, I always take a moment and I ask myself how I feel about what the person said. Sometimes I do read it over and I take it into account, like to better myself. Like if I see something in there that's kind of like constructive and not rude, I will take it in and use it as a tool. But in all reality, whatever creates my happiness for me is what matters. So let's talk about the next part. Okay, here we go. Finally, are you still with our girlfriend? How have things panned out with that? Are you feeling okay? Do you still feel beneath her? Has she let you take time to yourself? Oof. Okay. That's something to unpack quite a bit. Because back then, I did have a girlfriend. And I needed a break, so I spent like a week with my dad before I moved in with him entirely. And that was a hard time because I felt so bad for establishing a boundary. And I think this was the first time I kind of really felt what they say about boundaries. The biggest thing that they say about boundaries is if someone has been benefiting from you not having them, that they will attack or get mad. And that's actually exactly what happened. Is I said that I needed a break, and she kept badgering me and talking to me and trying to manipulate me to come back and things of that nature. And eventually it got to the point where I had to block her entirely for a little bit. And now, with it being 2025, I have shifted quite a bit out of that. I still have to work on boundaries and realizing when I say I'm going to do something like take a break from somebody or something, that it's not their responsibility to follow that boundary. It's my responsibility to do what I said I was going to do. And I'm learning now in this conversation and reflecting on that is I didn't realize how much having boundaries is a form of self-love, because you're choosing yourself before anyone else. At that point, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing to create the bounds and rules in which you follow and you value. And now, with all the things about feeling beneath her, I feel bad for that version of myself, because poor 2016 Michelle, 22-year-old Michelle, had no clue what love was because of the conditioning in which we grew up in. And so she thought that that relationship was love, and that's a sad thought, but now I realize what love actually is in my own way. Love doesn't make you feel beneath people. It doesn't make you feel beneath people. If you are beneath that person, their love for you should lift you up to be in equal standing. And in my relationship now, I don't feel beneath my husband. I don't feel less than. I don't feel like he belittles me or makes me feel like I'm not worthy of a relationship that really works. And here's the thing is, I know I hesitated with saying I don't feel beneath him or anything. What I'm doing now in life, I don't do a 9-to-5, and that's been a hard thing for me, because I was used to making money like that. And so in that way, yeah, I kind of do feel a little bit beneath him, but then at the same token, I'm doing just as much at home as I would in a job field. So that's that part. Now let me go ahead and see what else we have in this letter. Do you have a better job? Have you figured out what you want to do? I hope things are getting a little better no matter what is going on. I want you to feel good about yourself. I like this letter because of how much reflection I have going on here and thinking about all the things, right? So, do I have a better job? Yeah. I have had my own business since I believe it was like 2018-ish. It feels like 2018. I've been doing tarot readings, mediumship, even teaching mediumship and astrology. I'm a coach. I've done past life regressions since 2019. And these things are fulfilling for me. These things are things that I love to do. These are things that have been a part of my life for a very long time. Divination has been a part of my life since I was a kid. Being interested in reincarnation, been around since I was a kid. And wanting to teach has been around since I've been a kid. And so it's interesting to look back and see that I was a 22-year-old working at Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, and it wasn't for me. Having a 9-to-5 was not for me. It wasn't built for me because there was so many expectations. I mean, no matter what you do in life, there are expectations from your customers or from the people that choose to work with you. But there is something about what I do now that just lights me up, even if it doesn't give me 100%, like, I haven't made 6 figures or anything yet. Keyword, yet. I do want to. I also, on top of that, I crochet stuff too. So, 2022 me has no clue. She had no clue how much I would be doing in the next 9 years. It's been 9 years. And it's been one heck of a ride for those 9 years, I'm going to tell you. But all of it is worth it to have me sitting here with you today and reflecting on this. I feel so good in the moment to actually take a moment and say, hey, Michelle, guess what? You have made it. You are not that same lost, scared, unsure girl who wrote this letter. You are strong, capable, and you are enough. And this is the hardest thing for me to really feel into, because I'm letting the words sink in. And there are days where I don't feel like I'm enough. And I feel like a big part of that, especially in the work that I do, is that past Michelle, this version of Michelle, is still out there and still going through the things she's going through. And she's stuck. She feels stuck. She feels scared. And she doesn't feel like she's enough. But right now, I'm going to say something. Is that she is enough. You're enough. You are listening to this. You are inherently enough. You are more than enough. You are perfect as you are. But if you seek change and you are not happy with where you're at, start thinking about the things you want. Who do you want to be? I may not be the huge, perfect example of who I wanted to be, but I'm close. I'm closer than I was in 2016. I'm going to tell you that right now. Is I'm closer than I was in 2016. 2016, I was at the bottom of the barrel. Now I'm at least, like, here's the bottom of the barrel. I'm at least, like, right here at the, like, not the very top, but, like, where that second ring of the barrel is. That's where I'm at, which is great. That's a good, I want that barrel to be overflowing. In the next 9 years, I hope that barrel is overflowing or the barrel got bigger, And if you are watching this and you feel like past me, if you're lost, stuck, unsure of what's next, I want you to do something for yourself. I want you to write a letter, just like the letter I wrote. I want you to keep it for safekeeping. Keep it on a flash drive and look back at this, because I'm going to tell you something. You won't stay stuck there forever. You won't stay stuck there forever. You are capable of so much more than you think you are. And one day, you're going to look back at that letter that I'm asking you to write, and you're going to have the same epiphanies. You're going to have, well, maybe not the same exact epiphanies, but you're going to have your own epiphanies. So, here's what I'm going to say, is if this resonated with you, I want you to write that letter to yourself today. One day, you'll look back and see that you've grown so much. And if you want to follow along on my journey, don't forget to like, vibe, and subscribe, because trust me, we're all evolving and the best is still to come. See you in the next video.